place to be able to change the tide. A lot of things happening in the country just from celebrating the World Wetlands Day. What are some of the initiatives being put in place to make sure that we preserve the wetlands, because the wetlands then come to give us water, which gets rid of water scarcity across the world. My name is Dennis Aseto, and we go straight to some of the stories that we've covered during the celebration of the World Wetlands Day. Now, Kenya recently joined the world in celebrating International Wetlands Day, a day set aside to raise awareness about wetlands. As Dalmas Sakali reports, this year's celebration was themed Wetlands, nurturing life, sustaining communities, and brought together various dignitaries from across the globe.
Wetlands Day is an environmentally related celebration which dates back to the year 1971, when several environmentalists gathered to reaffirm protection and love for wetlands that make up to 6% of Earth's surface. Kenya joined the world in marking this year's commemoration in an event attended by ambassadors from different countries, environmentalists, lecturers, students and various stakeholders at Strathmore University.
Every one of you must be knowing it was a national holiday as well. I got a plant at my house, and I'm taking well care of that. So at least that is what I can do. I cannot go to every house and ask, okay, you are bound to do that plant, take care of that, make it big. So I am doing my part. So I think every one of you in this hall, I think if 100 people are sitting over there, we have 100 trees at least in our houses.
Ecosystem and the wetlands is a destination for tourism. And this is what we are doing in Jordan. We are really using every place in Jordan, like Petra, like the baptism site of Jesus Christ, Jerash, all the Nabateans, and the wetlands to attract tourism.
Ambassador Indimuli Diana Lucy, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Amali organization, says that there is a great need for young people to be heavily involved in the conservation of wetlands and other water sources.
The structure that has worked for us is allowing young people not only to be the implementers, but to also categorically build up the framework that they want to implement.
One of the streams, big streams, is the 2030 agenda on wetlands. So what does this mean? Everybody, we are focusing interest as a clear stream to be able to achieve rivers and all the water sources and the riverines and all the categories of wetlands on a standard conservation in every country by 2030. How many years to go?
This year's celebration comes at a time when overpopulation is being blamed for a decrease in environmental conservation, leading to many wetlands being lost. Sakali Dalmas, KTN News.
Thank you, Dalmas, for that report. But now let's head to Isiolo County, where Hard Economic Times, accompanied by the high cost of animal feeds, has seen poultry farmers in the region invent alternative feeds to keep their businesses afloat. Now, Clement Masombo tells how poultry farmers are keeping processed feeds and embracing the use of azolla, a black soldier fly, to feed their birds.
Following a sharp increase in prices of chicken feeds, groups of women and youth who practice poultry farming in Isiolo County have had to innovate ways of finding alternative feeds other than relying on processed feeds. The women say that high prices have forced them to downsize their flocks, with some shutting down businesses completely.
Azolla farming, it's a water fern which is high in proteins and also in minerals. It is used to feed chicken and also other livestock, which include goats and also fish.
Irene Wangoi now uses black soldier flies and azolla, which is a free aquatic floating fern that is rich in protein content, crucial for poultry, livestock and aquatic farming.
So we are using azolla as a way to lower our production costs in terms of feeds. So we use azolla and we mix them with the commercial feeds. Yes.
Regina Wanjira is a trainer of trainers and has been a poultry farmer for over 15 years. She says this has turned to be her main source of income. One bird goes for between 1,500 and 2,000 shillings.
Kama mimi moja, hii kuku ndio nimesomesha nayo watoto na wanunulia chakula, nalipa na school fees. tayari nimepata kitu ya kuni empower mimi mwenyewe na nikasaidia jamii. Sio mimi pekee nimesaidika na hii mradi ya drip.
Her story is not so different from that of Rachel Mukoruru, another poultry farmer in Isiolo County.
Kuku wangu inanisaidia sana, juu ile ndume yote mimi nausanga ndume moja na ngiri, nauza ngiri 5 ama ngiri 4, ngiri 3, ngiri 2 na ikapeleka mtoto shule ama mimi mwenyewe ngajinunulia ndawa juu ng'ombe naye sio mingi na hata mbuzi sio ile kuuza sana.
Poultry farming in Isiolo is facilitated through the Drought Resilience Project (DRIC). At least 1,000 residents of Isiolo County have benefited from the project, which aims at offering solutions to persistent drought in the region.
Most of them are doing well, have taken up the activity so seriously, and their livelihood is upgraded, and also they don't have to only concentrate on livestock farming, which is more riskier because of theft cases and also losses.
Pale mwanzo tulikuwa na kuku wetu wa kienyeji tu, na kawaida kuku wetu wa kienyeji wanakuwa kuku wakubwa, lakini kulingana na vile wametuletea ile njogoo imebandilisha kuku wetu na wako sawa sana. Kwa saa hii njogoo tunashukuru kwa sababu tunapata njogoo ya kilo 5, mbeleni tulikuwa tumezoea kuku ya kilo 1.5 kilo 2.
Clement Masombo, KTN News.
Thank you, Clement, for that story right there on what farmers are doing in making sure that they reduce how much they're spending and also using natural ways to be able to feed their chickens and reducing the expenditure at the end of the month. But now, in studio with me, I have Nathan Ngetich, Executive Director, Smart Mechanized Agriculture and Climate Action for Humanity and Stability, as we'll be having that discussion right here. And I have Gabriel Musinyo on my extreme left. He is from the Indigenous Youth Network and also a climate activist. Welcome on show, gentlemen. And the stories that we've just had right now, we've talked about protection of wetlands. We know the importance of wetlands, the water sources that we need. We talk about, let's talk about protection of Mau. We talk about Q water towers. We talk about there's another water tower in eastern region. And all these go into making sure that we protect our environment. Just teach, just how important is it for us to protect our water towers?
Thank you very much for having me. And in terms of the wetlands, I think it is a key thing, because when you see at the 5 major water towers, that's the Mau, Mount Kenya, Aberdares, Cherangani, and Mount Elgon. These are the sources of water, which is a source of livelihood and a source of life to many people. Apart from these water towers and these water catchment areas being a source of water, it also acts as a place for a bedrock of biodiversity. It is also a livelihood, a center where different animals and different ecosystems exist. So I think it is important because water is life, and without water, I mean, for us as Sparks Foundation, we deal mainly by championing young people to join farming. And in farming, the key aspect is water. So that's what I could say about the wetlands. And as Sparks Foundation, we are working majorly with the government, that's the Kenya Forestry Service, in restoring mainly ecosystems and forests. We are in the process of finalizing adoption of Chebalungu Forest, and we'll adopt 200 hectares and be able to restore it over 8 years, because it was totally destroyed. And when we talk about the wetlands again, we need to involve the communities living within the wetlands, because we cannot have solutions imposed on them. They are the community, and they know the importance of the wetlands, they know the history, and they have the indigenous cultural heritage of the forest. So when you are coming up with the solutions, we need to involve them. So that's what I would say about the wetlands.
And I come to you, I mentioned something that I know is close to your heart. You are from the Mau area, you know, the indigenous communities which you belong to. You shared with me an image today donning your attire, and today as we talk about water towers and wetlands being protected, that is something close to your heart. So he says the need to involve the community. How important is that from where it is you sit?
Thank you, Aseto, for this opportunity. And in my understanding, we have 2 different aspects we have wetlands and we have water catchment areas or water towers. And in my place, where we come from, we have two wetlands, that is Ngongwenkare, Majimoto, and we also have a Napuyapui wetland on the far end, the border between Narok and Nakuru. And I think on the issue of wetlands, wetlands are suffering wetlands are being interfered by a lot of agricultural activities along the place. People are not in a position to understand the importance of wetlands in relation to their activities. Like agriculture is purely dependent on water, and as soon as we have seen, people are embracing what we call the irrigation system, and using irrigation in wetlands, or now when you tap this water from wetlands into irrigation, I think it is more. I think it is what is keeping agriculture alive. On the issue of water towers, now like we have the Mao water towers, the one in Mount Elgon, Mount Kenya, Aberdares, Rangani Hills. I think in the long run, this water, it has existed even before we came to realize. And people have been living there. So it is not a big deal. It is something that must be, the indigenous communities or the local communities will always be involved in anything to do with those places.
And when you talk about the communities being involved, I remember recently I was in Makueni County and I was having a conversation with the residents of Makueni, and it was a conversation about the Q water towers and wetlands, and also the Chulu. And we were meant to understand that actually the Chulu water towers supplies water all the way to the coast region, which then means that we must protect our water towers, our water tables, our water catchment areas, because they are the ones that provide us with this resource that we really need when it comes to agriculture, what we use for drinking, all these humanity and life in general being supported by water. Therefore, when we talk about, Nyetich, when you talk about involving the communities around the indigenous communities in protecting these water tables, just how should we go about this? How should we have the community be at the forefront in protecting these water towers, and at the same time telling them to get out of the water towers because it is the source of livelihoods for everybody? If Eastern is providing water for coast region, therefore it means we all depend on this.
True. So my main idea would be, first of all, identification of the wetlands, because if you can look for the statistics where these wetlands are located, you won't find like a concrete document showcasing where they are. So the first step is to involve the community in identification of the previous places where we had these wetlands, so that we can be able to restore them. The second one is about probably having community engagements. For example, when it comes to the approach that is being used by the Kenya Forestry Service, and also in different organizations where they partner with communities, you find that there are community forest associations, the CFAs. And the CFAs always contribute in development of the community, the forest management plan manual, in which it outlines what the community want. Because you find that in some forests, they were destroyed because the community maybe wanted land to graze their herds. Maybe some communities wanted land to plant, and maybe some communities were just encroaching the place to be able to build their houses because of the increasing number in population in our country. So if you involve them and get to know the real problem, what is the problem, is that now you can engage with them and say, okay, we are going to restore this place by first starting with this and moving to point B. So for example, if it is an issue whereby they need to herd their cattle, then you develop a forest management plan whereby it states that for you to get the grass or the napier out of the forest, that is cut and carry. So you do agroforestry in the forest, then cut and carry the feeds for the animals out of the forest. So with that, you are able now to restore the forest or the wetland harmoniously by also providing the community with the solution. So that's an approach I'd love us to use, and also it is an engagement whereby the community will contribute themselves. For example, I saw in a certain place whereby they wanted to implement the rehabilitation of the wetlands and the water towers by fencing. I mean, if you fence, even if you use electricity, the community are going to destroy. So first of all, you need to teach them the importance of the forest, because for them the importance is getting their livelihood out of it that day, not the long term. And also you need also to teach them about climate change down to the community, because some of the times we talk about the climate change, the climate crisis and the effects and the adaptation and mitigation on a national level, but not to the grassroots. So as Max, we always use an approach of capacity building to the communities, to the CFAs and the CBOs. As I had mentioned earlier about the adoption of Chivalum Forest, we have partnered with a CBO called a Greening Town Initiative, and they are the ones that are big on community engagement. So by doing that, we are able to know that this community really need a source of livelihood. So for us, we are now taking beekeeping as an alternative source of livelihood, because we believe that a beekeeper cannot cut down a tree.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Something close to your heart, the Mau. People invaded Mau and people are being asked to leave the Mau. So as we have this discussion on what we need to do to protect our water table, our water towers, our wetlands, how do we involve the communities? The way he says that we first of all have to have a communication with the communities to understand the importance of these water towers, the wetlands, so that even as we are asking them to leave, we are also coming with a solution on the same. How do we go about that and not interfere with people's livelihoods?
I think the issue we have with the water catchment areas, it is not basically about the indigenous communities. The issue we have is invasion from other people. Other people are invading places. They come, they do their own activities, they invade the lands, and in the long run, they come and ruin these water catchment areas. So, at the end of the day, you find that out of these activities, illegal activities or activities that has not been there previously, because in my understanding, before innovation of technology, see, we used to have these water catchment areas. They have never been interfered. The issue we have now is intrusion. People are coming, people are becoming greedy. People are becoming selfish with the ecosystem. And it is the issue we have. Even now, the issue of Mau, when you see people are being evicted, I think it is not a matter of the indigenous communities being evicted. Although the government misplaced it and go and evict indigenous people who have been protecting the forest, the damage that has happened to the forest is I think it is from intrusion from other communities. Right now, we have a CBO we have registered, Mau Forest Conservancy Organization, whereby we want to come and engage with this community. We engage with other multi-agencies like Kenya Water Tower Agency, because in the long run, if Kenya Forest Service and Kenya Water Tower Agency, if they come in a brutal way and effect these policies, they will always be in the helter-skelter with these people. So we must have a dialogue in which we must involve these people together. We must involve the community, because you cannot really tell me now you come and protect this water tower without informing these people the importance of it. So they have to really understand, why should we have this water tower? We need to have it because, one, it's the source of water. Secondly, because of the flora and the fauna. Also, on the other aspect, is because of the other population. Because now the water that is coming from the larger Mau Forest Complex goes down to the River Mara. So you see along the way how many people or how many creatures are benefiting with this water. So we must also make this matter, we must involve these people. Also, like we have the local authorities like the county government, I think we have the benefit that is coming from this water coming from the Mau. It must also, if the benefit and if this water goes to Masai Mara, that benefit must also be shared to those people of Mau, because they must also appreciate this effort they are putting to protect this water.
Good conversation on the preservations and protecting of water towers. Definitely that is a conversation that has to continue because we all depend on this water. But let us switch gears and now go to COP28. I mean, Africa Climate Summit came with its own demands, with its own agreements, the Nairobi Declaration, and we saw that formed a basis upon which African leaders and Africa as a whole had a document to go negotiate at COP28. And at COP28, we saw a lot of, how do I put it, a lot of decisions that were agreed upon. And let's just talk about the new funding for loss and damage. It was a big conversation at COP, and you're talking about close to $700 million, that's at around 7 billion. And as we talk about this conversation, how do we make sure that this conversation is on a global scale? We need to start having conversations on a national scale, first of all, what we need to do to get that money, and how we will scale it down to the CBOs and to the Kawaida Mwananchi. So as we talk about COP28, what must we do? Because we work with the local people in Yatich. What must we do to be able to get a share of this loss and damage?
So when we talk about COP28, it always seems like a global platform where people go and talk without doing nothing on the ground, but that's debatable, I mean. So the main principle of COP is for international community to come up with rules and treaties and agreements on how we are going to solve the climate crisis. Once we are done with the global now perspective is now when we have the NDCs. The NDCs is whereby now the countries, the national level, develop now the policies on how they are going to tackle the issues that was discussed, because at the international level it is a legally binding agreement, so that forms part of the international law. So when we come to the local, that now the conversation trickles down to the countries. Now within the countries is whereby we have a major challenge in terms of the loss and damage. I mean, the loss and damage, we have talked about a huge figure. I wish I could have even just a 1% of it. I'd have done more with the foundation, because we lead the local-led actions for adaptation and building resilient communities. So why is there an issue with the loss and damage fund? We talk about it, people go to, we have COP coming in and going away. I mean, we are preparing for the next one. But the main issue is that while we have that pledge from the countries that are polluting to the countries that need now to adopt these solutions and become a carbon sink for the global community, mainly the global south. So we talk about trickling down the finances to these communities, but we don't have frameworks, because these frameworks are still under development. So that's the first issue. In these frameworks, the main discussion was the youth-led initiatives are the one that face a huge problem because they don't receive funding. Why? We face a risk of misusing the funds, according to the discussion. So instead of pointing out the problem without providing the solution, I think that it is time that local CBOs and NGOs and foundations like ours